Hey everyone. Today we're diving into something that I know is important to a lot of us, animal rescue. We're going to go past all the emotional TV ads and really ask the tough question. When you open your wallet to help, where does that money actually go?
I mean, if you have a cat, you've seen the posts, you've seen the donation buttons, you want to help. Of course you do. But when you've got $100 to give, how do you know where it's going to save the most cats, right in your own community?
Well, it turns out the answer is really complicated, and frankly, it's way more important than you'd think. Not all rescues are the same, not even close. The whole system is kind of confusing, and often the groups that look the flashiest are actually doing the least. So let's untangle this thing. To get our heads around this, we're going to use a simple map, the four-tier system. At the bottom, you've got your government-run pounds, then the huge national charities, then those big fancy regional shelters, and finally, the small all-volunteer rescues. They each play a totally different part. Okay, let's start at the top with tiers 1 and 2. These are the big names, the ones you see the most, the government pounders and those giant national organizations you see on TV all the time. So tier 1, that's your local city or county animal control. You know, the pound. And the first thing to get is that it's a government agency. Its main job, by law, isn't rescue, it's public safety. That means they have to take every single animal that comes through the door no matter what. And because of that, they're always overflowing, which, tragically, is why they have the highest euthanasia rates of any.
And get this number is it's horrifying. An analysis found that for every animal that comes through a pound, it costs the taxpayers something like $308. But out of that, only about $15 and change actually goes to care. You know, food, medicine, stuff the animal actually needs. The rest? It's just eaten up by overhead.
Okay, so what about tier 2? These are the national giants. You know the names, you've seen the commercials that just break your heart. They raise millions of dollars. But the real question is, what happens to all that cash? It's probably not what you think.
And this right here is probably the biggest misunderstanding in the entire system. So many people give money to the Humane Society of the United States, the HSUS, thinking they're helping their local Humane Society shelter down the street. But here's the thing, they have nothing to do with each other. The HSUS doesn't run a single local shelter. Your donation, it's going to lobbying efforts and, yep, some pretty big executive salaries. It's not feeding the cats in your town.
Okay, so if the pounds are just totally overwhelmed and the big national groups don't actually run shelters, that brings us to tier 3. These are the large regional shelters that, on the outside, look absolutely perfect. But are they?
You know these places. They've got beautiful, clean buildings, a huge social media following, and they love to advertise their save rates of over 90%. I mean, it all looks amazing, right? Like the absolute gold standard for what a rescue should be.
But that begs a huge question. If the pounds are forced to put animals down just to make space, how in the world are these big shelters hitting near perfect numbers? Well, the secret isn't just about who they're saving, it's about who they're choosing to leave behind.
This quote actually comes from a volunteer who saw this happen. A litter of 5 kittens was brought into a municipal pound. A person from one of these big Tier 3 shelters showed up, took the one cute, highly adoptable orange kitten, and just left the 4 regular brown tabby kittens behind. Those 4 tabbies, they were later put to sleep.
This has a name. It's called cherry picking, and it's the key to understanding those high save rates. They control their intake. They go to the pounds and they pull the easiest animals to adopt. The cute puppies, the fluffy kittens, the purebreds. And they leave the older cats, the sick ones, and the plain-looking ones for the pound to deal with. And you can actually spot this for yourself. Go to a shelter's website. If you see a never-ending parade of adorable kittens, lots of cats with designer colors like orange or calico, but almost no regular adult cats, very few plain tabbies or black cats, and absolutely no seniors or special needs animals, that is a massive red flag that they're probably cherry-picking.
So what happens to all those animals that get left behind? The seniors, the sick ones, the plain tabbies? Well, that brings us to the final and most overlooked part of the system, Tier 4, the frontline volunteer rescues.
Tier 4 is made up of these small, often really scrappy rescue groups. They're the true frontline workers. They usually don't even have a building. They're just a network of volunteers who open up their own homes to foster animals. There's no paid staff, and they are constantly running on fumes, just trying to raise enough money for the next vet bill.
So who do they save? Literally, everyone else.
They're the ones who go to the pound and pull the senior cat with failing kidneys, the cat who's FIV positive, the pregnant mom so her kittens can be born in a home, not a cage. And yes, they take all those boring but amazing tabby and black cats that the bigger shelters decided weren't marketable enough. They take on the hardest, most expensive cases, period.
All right, we've seen who's doing what. Now it's time for the verdict. Let's follow the money. If your goal is to save the most lives for every single dollar you donate, where should that dollar go?
Okay, this slide, this is just staggering. Because those big Tier 3 shelters have so much overhead, buildings, salaries, marketing, it costs them about $1,800 to save one of those cherry-picked animals. But a small, foster-based rescue with almost no overhead, they can save an animal, and remember, it's often a much more difficult case, for around $500. They are saving 3 to 4 times as many animals for the exact same amount of money.
Let's really break this down. Imagine you have $100. If you give it to one of those big national organizations, look where it goes. Almost all of it is eaten up by more fundraising, administration, and lobbying. The amount that goes to directly helping an animal in a shelter, often it's literally zero. Now, let's look at that same $100 going to a large regional shelter. Okay, this is better for sure. A big chunk, maybe 60%, does go to animal care, but you're still losing around 40% to things like salaries, keeping the lights on in a big facility, and more marketing.
And finally, here's your $100 at a small Tier 4 volunteer rescue. Just look at that difference. 95% or even more of your money is going directly to what the animals need. Vet care, food, litter, medicine. The impact is almost 1-to-1. It is, by far, the most efficient way to help. So what this all boils down to is a system that is completely upside down. The groups with the giant marketing budgets, the ones that do the least direct rescue of the animals who are most at risk, get the most money. And the volunteers on the absolute front lines, saving the animals that nobody else will, they're the ones left struggling to get by.
The system is definitely broken, but the power to fix it really lies with all of us, with every person who decides to adopt or volunteer or donate. So now that you know what's going on behind the scenes, the only question left is, who will you support? Thanks for watching.